The observation deck of the Eternal Dawn was Hay's favorite place in the entire ship. She spent every free moment there, pressing her face against the reinforced glass and staring at the endless ocean of stars. At 12 years old, she had already decided what she wanted to be when they reached New Haven: a xenobiologist. Someone who studied alien life forms and helped humans understand the strange and wonderful creatures that lived on other worlds. She sat cross-legged on the floor now, her sketchbook balanced on her knees. The page was filled with drawings of the Vorians, one of the 7 species that made up the Galactic Council. She had copied their images from the ship's database, trying to capture the way their 4 eyes reflected light, how their scaled skin changed color based on their mood. I thought they were beautiful, even if they looked nothing like humans. "Hey, you should eat something," a voice called out. It was Ari, one of the teachers on the colony ship. She had been watching over Hay since the girl's parents died in an accident 3 years ago. Ari was kind and patient, always encouraging Hay's dreams even when others said she was too young to think about such things. "I will," Hay promised, not looking up from her drawing. "Just let me finish this wing structure. The database says Vorians can't actually fly anymore, but their ancestors could. Isn't that amazing?" Ari smiled and sat down beside her. "It is. You're going to make a wonderful scientist someday." The ship's intercom crackled to life. Captain Day's voice filled the observation deck, calm but serious. "All passengers, please remain calm. We have been intercepted by a Galactic Council enforcement fleet. This is routine. We will resolve this shortly." Hay looked up at Ari. "What does that mean?" "It means we need to show them our papers," Ari explained. "We have permission to go to New Haven. The Council approved it months ago. This is just a check, like when security guards ask to see your identification." But something in Ari's voice made Hay nervous. The teacher's hands were shaking slightly. On the bridge, Captain Day stared at the massive ships that had surrounded the Eternal Dawn. There were 12 of them, all Vorian warships, their hulls gleaming with weapons arrays that could tear his colony ship apart in seconds. This was not routine. Nothing about this was routine. "Admiral Thex of the Vorian Empire," came a harsh voice over the communications channel. "You have entered the Pelion sector without authorization. This is a violation of Galactic Council law. Turn back immediately." Day felt his stomach drop. "Admiral, with respect, we filed all proper documentation with the Council 6 months ago. We have full authorization to pass through this sector to reach New Haven. I can transmit our permits immediately." "Your documents are forgeries," Thex replied coldly. "Humanity is too young to receive such permissions. You will turn back now, or face enforcement action." Day transmitted the permits anyway. They were real. He knew they were real. He had spent 2 years getting them approved, working with council bureaucrats, paying fees, following every single rule. 50,000 people on this ship had sold everything they owned to start new lives on New Haven. They could not turn back. "Admiral, please review the documents. You will see they are legitimate. We mean no harm. We are simply families trying to reach our new home." There was a long silence. Then Thex spoke again. "I have reviewed your false documents. You have 1 hour to reverse course, or we will disable your ship and tow you back to Earth space." In the observation deck, Hay had stopped drawing. Other colonists had gathered there, watching the Vorian ships through the glass. Everyone was talking at once, their voices rising in fear and confusion. "It's going to be okay," Ari said, putting her arm around Hay. "Captain Day is a good negotiator. He'll fix this, but Captain Day could not fix it." For 57 minutes he argued with Admiral Thex. He showed document after document. He explained that turning back was impossible, because they had already used most of their fuel. He begged, he pleaded. He tried everything. At minute 58, the Eternal Dawn's shields flickered. It was a minor malfunction, the kind that happened on long voyages. The shield generators were old and sometimes needed to reset. The flicker lasted less than 3 seconds. Admiral Thex saw it as an act of aggression. A human ship powering up weapons. A threat to his fleet. "Fire," he ordered. The first blast struck the bridge directly. The entire command section of the Eternal Dawn exploded in a ball of fire. Captain Day died instantly, along with every officer and crew member on duty. The ship lurched violently, and alarms began screaming throughout every corridor. In the observation deck, people were thrown to the floor. The lights flickered and went red. Emergency sirens wailed. "Everyone to the shelters," Ari shouted, pulling Hay to her feet. "Move, now!" He grabbed her sketchbook and ran. Around her, families were scrambling toward the emergency shelters, carrying children, helping the elderly. The ship shook again as another blast hit somewhere deep in the hull. The air started to smell like burning metal and plastic. "This way," Hay called out, spotting a group of younger children frozen in fear. She had memorized the ship's layout during the voyage. She knew where the nearest shelter was. "Follow me. Stay together." 6 children, all younger than Hay, grabbed onto her and each other. They ran through the shaking corridors, following the emergency lights. Behind them, Ari herded more people toward safety. They were almost to the shelter when the second barrage hit. This time, the Vorian ships targeted the residential sectors. They were not trying to disable the Eternal Dawn. They were trying to destroy it. The blast tore through the hull just meters from where Hay was running. The corridor exploded. Metal and debris flew in every direction. The wall beside Hay simply vanished, and suddenly she was looking out into space. She felt the air being sucked out of her lungs, felt herself being pulled toward the breach. She tried to grab onto something, anything, but her hands found nothing. The children she had been leading were screaming, but she could not hear them anymore. There was no air to carry sound. Hay's last thought was of New Haven. She had wanted so badly to see it, to walk on alien soil and discover new life forms, to become someone important, someone who helped humans and aliens understand each other. Her sketchbook flew out of her hand and tumbled into space, its pages fluttering open. Drawings of Vorians, Krell, and other species scattered into the void. Then everything went dark. The attack lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, 39,000 colonists were dead. The Eternal Dawn was a broken, burning wreck. Survivors huddled in the few sections that still had life support, waiting for rescue ships that would take hours to arrive. Admiral Thex recorded his official report. Enforcement action successful. Human vessel destroyed for territorial violation and hostile actions. No Vorian casualties. Matter closed. The Galactic Council reviewed the report and approved it within an hour. They issued a brief statement calling it regrettable but necessary. They offered no apology, no compensation, no acknowledgement that 50,000 humans had just been trying to start a new life. On Earth, the news spread slowly at first, then exploded across every network. Images of the destroyed ship. Lists of names. Among them was Hay, age 12, orphan, aspiring xenobiologist. Her picture appeared on screens across the planet. A young girl with bright eyes and a hopeful smile, holding a sketchbook filled with drawings of the aliens she had wanted to study. The Galactic Council believed the matter was settled. They had enforced their rules. Humanity would accept this lesson and know their place in the galaxy. They were wrong. Chancellor Minji stood before the United Earth Assembly, her hands gripping the podium so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Behind her, a massive screen displayed the faces of the dead. 39,000 of them, row after row after row. In the center, larger than the others, was Hay's picture. "We have 3 choices," Minji said, her voice steady despite the rage burning in her chest. "We can declare war on the Galactic Council. We can accept their decision and move forward. Or we can negotiate for better treatment in the future." She paused, looking at the representatives from every nation on Earth. She saw the same anger in their eyes that she felt in her heart, but she also saw fear. "If we choose war, we will lose," she continued. "The Council has fleets that outnumber ours 50 to 1. They have weapons we cannot match. They control every major trade route in the galaxy. If they embargo us, millions on Earth will starve. If they attack us here, we have no defense that can stop them." A representative from the Asian coalition stood up. "So we do nothing? We let them kill our people and we just accept it?" "We do what we must to survive," Minji replied. "We are 40 years old in the galaxy. They are thousands of years old. We cannot win this fight. Not today." The vote took 3 hours. In the end, the decision was made. Earth would file a formal protest with the Galactic Council. They would demand better safety protocols and clearer guidelines for human ships. They would accept the Council's ruling on the Eternal Dawn incident. They would not declare war. The announcement went out to every human colony, every space station, every ship. Humanity would bow to the Council's decision. The news was met with protests in every major city on Earth. People filled the streets carrying pictures of Hay and the other victims. They chanted demands for justice. But the government held firm. What the public did not know was that the vote had been much closer than reported. What they did not know was that several key military leaders had voted against peace. What they did not know was that some of those leaders were already making other plans. Admiral Kwan sat in his office on the orbital defense station above Earth. He had just submitted his resignation. 28 years of service ended with a single message. He could not serve a government that would abandon its own people. His second-in-command, Commander Tay, knocked and entered. "Sir, the resignation has been processed. You're officially retired as of tomorrow." "Good," Kwan said. He looked out the window at Earth below, the blue and white marble that held billions of humans who deserved better than this. "And the ships?" "3 carrier groups have agreed to follow you," Tay replied quietly. "That's 47 vessels total. The official story will be that we've gone rogue, deserters. The government will condemn us, let them," Kwan said. "We're not doing this for their approval." Over the next month, Admiral Kwan's fleet simply disappeared. They told Earth's government they were conducting training exercises in the outer system. They told the public nothing at all. And then one day they were gone. Vanished into deep space without a trace. The government declared them deserters. They issued warrants. They promised prosecution when the ships returned. But everyone who paid attention knew the truth. Those ships were not coming back. Not until they had finished what they set out to do. While Kwan's fleet vanished, other things were happening in the shadows. In a hidden facility deep in the asteroid belt, a woman named Yuna was solving a problem that had bothered her for years. Yuna had been a respected physicist once. She had worked on Earth's jump drive program, helping to improve the technology that allowed ships to move faster than light. But she had been fired 3 years ago for proposing dangerous experiments. Ideas that could have destroyed entire research stations if they went wrong. Now, with no oversight and no rules stopping her, Yuna ran those experiments. Jump space was the key to everything. The Galactic Council's ships used gravity drives that bent space around them. They were powerful but slow and required massive energy. Human ships used a different approach, creating small tears in reality and slipping through them. It was faster, but the Council had kept certain secrets from humanity. Secrets about how to make those tears bigger, more stable, more controllable. Yuna cracked those secrets in her asteroid lab. She found the mathematical formulas that the Council had hidden. She discovered how to compress jump space itself, allowing ships to move distances in seconds that should take hours. She created drives that were smaller, faster, and more efficient than anything the galaxy had ever seen. She sent her findings to Admiral Kwan. He understood immediately what this meant. With these drives, human ships could strike anywhere in the galaxy and be gone before the enemy could react. They could fight a war that the Council could not counter, but drives alone were not enough. They needed ships. They needed weapons. They needed everything. That was where the real conspiracy began. Earth's shipyards had been building colony vessels for years, large, slow, unarmed transports meant to carry families to new worlds. After the Eternal Dawn disaster, those orders were quietly changed. The hulls were reinforced. Weapon systems were built into the designs but not activated. Each colony ship that left Earth's orbit was secretly a warship waiting to be armed. They built them in plain sight. The Council's observers saw colony ships being constructed and thought nothing of it. They did not realize that every single one was heading to secret locations in deep space. They did not realize that Admiral Kwan's engineers were stripping out the civilian interiors and installing military hardware. Within 6 months, Kwan had 50 combat-ready vessels. Within a year, he had 200. By 18 months, he commanded over 2,000 ships, all equipped with Yuna's revolutionary drives, all hidden in the darkness between stars. The crews came from everywhere. Some were military deserters like Kwan. Others were volunteers who could not stomach Earth's official policy of acceptance. Still others were survivors from the Eternal Dawn, people who had lost families and friends and wanted justice. Among them was Ari, the teacher who had tried to save Hai. She was not a soldier. She had never fired a weapon in her life, but she joined Kwan's fleet anyway, working in communications, making sure that every ship remembered why they were fighting. She kept Hai's sketchbook with her always. It had been recovered from space by a salvage crew, its pages damaged but still readable. She showed it to new recruits, let them see the drawings of aliens that a 12-year-old girl had made because she wanted to understand them. Wanted to live peacefully among them. This is what they destroyed, Ari would say. Not just a girl, not just a ship. They destroyed the hope that we could be friends with them. They destroyed the idea that we could trust them. So now we teach them something else. We teach them fear. The Galactic Council, meanwhile, believed everything was settled. Humanity had accepted their punishment. The matter was closed. They went back to their normal routines, governing the galaxy the way they always had. They noticed when human trade ships started arriving late. They noticed when Earth's diplomatic responses became slower. They noticed small anomalies in shipping manifests and ore production reports. But they dismissed these things as signs of humanity's wounded economy, their people dealing with grief and loss. They did not realize that every late shipment was covering the movement of weapons, that every delayed response was buying time for Quan's fleet to prepare, that every anomaly in production was evidence of resources being diverted to war. The Council had made a fatal mistake. They assumed that because humanity had voted for peace, humanity wanted peace. They did not understand that official government policy and the will of the people were not always the same thing. They did not understand that humans could be patient, could plan, could wait for the right moment. 18 months after the Eternal Dawn was destroyed, Chancellor Minji received a coded message from Admiral Quan. It contained just 5 words: "We are ready." "Are you?" Minji sat in her office for a long time holding that message. She thought about the vote she had pushed through, the vote that had chosen peace. She thought about Hayes' face on every screen in the world. She thought about what justice meant. Then she sent back 3 words: "Do it." On Earth, nothing changed. The government continued to negotiate with the Council. Diplomats talked about trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Life went on. But in the darkness between stars, 2,000 human warships began to move toward their targets. Admiral Quan stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Righteous Fury, and gave the order that would change everything. Begin Operation Remember. The first target was not a military base. It was not a strategic location. It was a simple mining colony on the edge of Vorian space, a place called Thespar 4, where 3,000 Vorians lived and worked, far from any major defense fleet. Before the attack began, every Vorian on the planet received a transmission. No words, just an image, a picture of a 12-year-old girl holding a sketchbook. And below it, 3 words that would haunt the Galactic Council forever. We remember her. The Vorian mining colony on Thespar 4 was having an ordinary day when the sky changed. Workers were harvesting rare minerals from the planet's crust, loading them onto transport ships bound for the Empire's industrial worlds. Children were in school, learning about their species' proud history. In the capital city, Governor Threx was having lunch with visiting officials discussing production quotas. Then every screen, every computer, every communication device on the planet displayed the same image. A human child, dark hair, bright eyes, holding a book filled with drawings. Below her face were 3 words in perfect Vorian script. We remember her. The image stayed for exactly 30 seconds. Then it vanished, and the sky lit up. 12 human ships appeared above Thespar 4. They had not traveled there. They had not approached on any sensors. They were simply not there one moment and there the next. The planet's defense systems had no time to react, but the human ships did not fire on the cities. They did not target the mines or the homes or the schools. Their weapons locked onto the military installations, the orbital defense platforms, the communications arrays, the garrison where Vorian soldiers were stationed. Commander Tay, leading the attack from her stealth corvette, gave the order. Fire, military targets only. By the book. The attack was surgical, precise. Every shot hit exactly what it was meant to hit. The defense platforms exploded into clouds of debris. The military communications tower collapsed. The garrison's weapons depot detonated in a massive fireball that could be seen from space. 17 minutes after they appeared, the human ships vanished. They left behind a planet full of terrified civilians and a defense force that no longer existed. Not a single civilian had been harmed. Not one home destroyed, but the message was clear. Humanity could strike anywhere, anytime, and there was nothing the Vorians could do to stop them. Governor Threx sent a frantic message to the Vorian capital, screaming about the attack. By the time the message arrived, 6 more colonies had been hit in exactly the same way. Same pattern, same precision, same message about the human girl. Admiral Thax, who had ordered the destruction of the Eternal Dawn, received reports at his command station. He read them with growing disbelief. Human ships that could appear and disappear, weapons that struck with impossible accuracy, attacks that left civilians untouched but destroyed military targets completely. "This is not possible," he said to his tactical officer. "Humans do not have this technology. Their fleet is primitive, slow, weak. Sir, I'm reading the reports from 7 different colonies. The attacks are real, and there are more coming. Sensors are picking up spatial distortions across 17 systems. They're going to hit us everywhere at once." Thex felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. Real, cold fear. Send the full fleet to defend the core worlds. Pull every ship back from patrol. We need to consolidate our defenses. But consolidation was exactly what the humans wanted. As Vorian ships rushed back to defend their most important planets, they left other systems exposed. And the human fleet kept striking, always where the defenders were not, always hitting targets that seemed impossible to reach. In 1 week, humanity hit 63 Vorian military installations across 30 systems. They lost not a single ship. The Vorian Empire, which had ruled its section of space for 2,000 years, was paralyzed with shock and fear. The other members of the Galactic Council watched these attacks with concern. The Krell Empire sent a delegation to Earth, demanding that Chancellor Minji call off her terrorist fleet. Minji met them in her office, her face carefully neutral. "I have no control over Admiral Quan and his forces. He is a deserter, a criminal. Earth's government officially condemns his actions." The Krell ambassador, a tall being with crystal-like skin, studied her carefully. "You lie, Chancellor. We have evidence of resource shipments, of industrial production that matches nothing in your public records. Your government is supporting this war. Prove it," Minji replied calmly. "Bring evidence to the council. Make your case. Until then, Admiral Quan acts on his own." The ambassador left frustrated. The truth was there in the numbers and the patterns, but proving it was difficult. Earth's bureaucracy was designed to hide what it wanted to hide. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. Representatives from all 7 species gathered in the Grand Chamber on the neutral world of Concordia. They shouted at each other, blamed each other, and tried to decide what to do about the human problem. "We should destroy Earth," Admiral Thex argued, via hologram. "Make an example of their entire species. Show them what happens when they challenge us." "And if we do that," countered a Palithian representative, her feathers ruffling in agitation, "what does that make us? We killed their civilians first, thousands of them. They are only targeting our military now. If we escalate to genocide, the entire galaxy will turn against us." The Nexari delegate, a being of living metal, added, "We need to understand how they are doing this. Their jump technology should not work this way. Something has changed. If we do not learn what, we cannot defend against it." After hours of argument, the council made their decision. They would send an ultimatum to Earth. Stop the attacks within 72 hours or face total annihilation. They would assemble the combined fleet, 300 capital ships from all 7 council species. They would send this fleet to Earth and make humanity surrender. When the ultimatum reached Earth, Chancellor Minji read it aloud during a global broadcast. The entire planet watched as she stood before cameras and spoke. "The Galactic Council demands we surrender. They threaten to destroy our world if we do not comply. They call us terrorists for seeking justice. They call us criminals for defending ourselves." She paused, letting the words sink in. "But I ask you to remember why this began. Remember the eternal dawn. Remember Hai. Remember that we did not start this fight. We only decided to finish it." She took a breath. "I will not surrender. I will not order Admiral Quan to stop. If the Council wants to destroy Earth, let them try. But they should know this. If they come here, they will not face a helpless colony ship. They will face every human who has ever been told they are lesser. Every person who has been dismissed and disrespected. Every soul who has had enough of bowing to those who think themselves superior. Let them come. We will be ready." The broadcast ended. Within hours, billions of humans volunteered for defense forces. Factory workers increased production. Scientists shared research that had been kept secret. Engineers built weapons. Humanity united in a way it had not done in centuries. And in deep space, Admiral Quan received word of the combined fleet's movement. 2,000 human ships changed course, heading toward a location called the Epsilon Reach, a stretch of empty space between stars where gravity wells were weak and sensor readings were difficult. "They're coming," Commander Tay reported. 300 council ships, They think they're going to intimidate us with numbers. Admiral Quan nodded slowly. He stood on the bridge of the Righteous Fury, looking at the tactical display. 300 council ships versus 2,000 human vessels. On paper, it might seem like an easy victory for humanity, but those council ships were massive dreadnoughts, each one carrying more firepower than a dozen human cruisers. We're not trying to intimidate them, Quan said. We're trying to teach them a lesson. Open a channel to all ships. I want everyone to hear this. The communication channels opened. Over 2,000 human captains listened as their admiral spoke. In 72 hours, we will face the largest fleet the Galactic Council has ever assembled. They believe their size will make us afraid. They believe their weapons will make us surrender. They are wrong. We did not come here to be afraid. We came here to show them what humanity means. We remember every single colonist who died on the Eternal Dawn. We remember that they wanted nothing but to live in peace. And we remember that the Council killed them anyway. His voice hardened. So when they arrive, we will not show mercy. We will not hold back. We will fight with everything we have until they understand that humanity is not prey. We are not subjects. We are equals, or we are their executioners. There is no middle ground anymore. Prepare for battle. And remember her. Remember why we're here. Across the human fleet, crews checked their weapons and powered up their engines. Engineers ran final tests on the jump drives. Tactical officers studied the Council's fleet composition and planned attack patterns. Medical teams prepared for casualties. Ari sat in the communications center of a support ship, holding Hai's sketchbook. She looked at the drawings the girl had made. The Vorians, the Krell, the Nexari, all rendered with careful detail by someone who had wanted to understand them. I'm sorry, Ari whispered to the image. I'm sorry we couldn't stay peaceful. But they need to learn. They need to understand that you mattered, that every human matters. She carefully placed the sketchbook in a protective case and locked it away. Then she returned to her station, ready to coordinate communications during the coming battle. The combined fleet entered the Epsilon Reach 71 hours later. 300 massive warships, their hulls gleaming with weapons and shields moving in perfect formation. They expected to find a small human force, maybe 50 ships. The human ships vanished. Admiral Kelv blinked at his tactical display as every single contact disappeared from sensors. One moment, there were 2,000 vessels spread across the Epsilon Reach. The next moment, nothing. Empty space. Just his own fleet's 300 ships sitting in formation. What just happened? He demanded. His tactical officer's voice cracked with panic. They jumped, sir. All of them. Simultaneous jump space transitions. I've never seen anything like it. Where did they go? I don't know. They could be anywhere within 100,000 kilometers. Our sensors can't track jump signatures when there are this many at once. Kelv had fought in wars before. He had commanded fleets for 40 years. He knew every standard tactic, every traditional approach to space combat. But this was something new, something impossible. The Council ships sat in their defensive formation waiting. Their doctrine was simple and had worked for centuries. Stay together, use combined firepower, let the enemy come to you and break themselves against your shields and weapons. It had never failed. Then the human ships reappeared. They did not come from one direction. They materialized all around the Council fleet, above and below, on every side. Small groups of human vessels, 20 or 30 at a time, appearing right in the middle of Kelv's formations. Commander Tay led her strike group directly behind a massive Krell dreadnought. The Krell ship's rear shields were weaker, designed that way because no enemy had ever gotten behind their formation before. Tay's 6 corvettes opened fire simultaneously, their railguns punching through the shields in seconds. The dreadnought's engine section exploded. The ship did not sink or fall because there was no gravity in space. It simply stopped moving, its power failing, life support dying. Its crew had seconds to evacuate before the secondary explosions tore through the hull. Before the nearby Council ships could rotate their weapons to target Tay's group, the human vessels jumped away. 3 seconds later, they appeared on the other side of the battle, targeting a Vorian cruiser's sensor array. This pattern repeated across the entire battlefield. Human ships would appear, strike a specific weak point, then vanish before the Council vessels could respond. It was not a battle. It was a massacre. Admiral Quan watched from the Righteous Fury, his tactical display showing the battle in real time. Every human captain had been trained for this. They knew the weak points of every Council ship class. They knew how long it took those ships to rotate their weapons. They knew exactly how long they could stay in one place before enemy fire could target them effectively. Weapon cycle time on Council ships averages 12 seconds. Yuna had explained during the planning sessions. Our jump drives can recharge in 8 seconds. That gives you 4 seconds to strike and leave. Use it. And they did. Over and over. Jump in, fire, jump out. The Council fleet could not adapt fast enough. Their massive ships were designed to fight other massive ships in slow, grinding battles of attrition. They had never faced an enemy that refused to stay still. A Nexari battleship tried to compensate by setting its weapons to automatic targeting, firing in all directions hoping to hit something. It succeeded only in damaging 3 Allied ships nearby. The human vessels danced around its fire, appeared behind it, and destroyed its power core in under 5 seconds. Within the first hour, 70 Council ships were disabled or destroyed. The human fleet had lost only 6 vessels, all of them to lucky shots or tactical errors. Admiral Kelv tried everything. He ordered his fleet to spread out, giving each ship room to maneuver. The human ships simply picked them off one by one, focusing fire on isolated targets. He ordered them to cluster together for mutual defense. The humans jumped into the middle of the clusters and fired in all directions at once. He tried to retreat. The humans appeared in front of his fleet, blocking escape routes. He tried to charge forward. The humans let him, then hit his fleet from behind. Nothing worked. Nothing could work. The Council's entire military doctrine was built on assumptions that no longer applied. They assumed battles happened at predictable distances. They assumed ships could not instantly relocate. They assumed numbers and firepower would always win. Humanity had rewritten the rules. On a human medical frigate, Ari watched the battle statistics scroll across her screen. Every few seconds, another Council ship's name appeared in red, marked as destroyed or disabled. And with each one, she felt nothing. No joy, no satisfaction. Just cold determination. She remembered Hai showing her those drawings. "Teacher, do you think when we get to New Haven we'll meet some of these species? Do you think they'll like us?" "I hope so," Ari had told her. "I really hope so." They had not liked humanity. They had killed without hesitation, without mercy. Now humanity was returning what had been given to them. The battle entered its 5th hour. Admiral Kelv's fleet was down to 213 functional ships. He sent a priority message to the Galactic Council, begging for reinforcements. The Council's response was immediate and harsh. "You have the largest fleet we can assemble. If you cannot win with 300 ships, no amount of reinforcements will help. Adapt or die." Kelv felt rage building inside him. Adapt? How could he adapt to an enemy that appeared and disappeared like ghosts? How could he fight something he could not hit? But he tried. He ordered his ships to fire not at where the human vessels were, but at where they had been. The theory was that human ships would return to successful attack positions. If the Council could fill those spaces with weapons fire, maybe they could hit something. It worked exactly once. A human destroyer jumped into a space that was already full of plasma fire. The ship's shields collapsed instantly and the hull ruptured. 47 crew members died. But the tactic could not be repeated. Human captains saw what had happened and adjusted immediately. They never used the same attack position twice. The Council's desperation had cost them nothing. By the 7th hour, Kelv had only 143 ships left. His own flagship had taken 3 hits and was losing power. He knew the battle was lost. He knew his fleet would be destroyed, but Council doctrine did not allow retreat, did not allow surrender. He was expected to fight until every ship was gone. Then something unexpected happened. The human attack stopped. All across the battlefield, the human ships jumped away and did not return. They gathered at a distance, their weapons powered down but shields still raised. Waiting. Admiral Kwan's voice came over an open channel that reached every Council ship. "Admiral Kelv, you have fought bravely, but this battle is over. I am giving you one chance, one opportunity that your Council did not give the Eternal Dawn. Power down your weapons. Evacuate your damaged ships. Retreat, live." Kelv stared at his communications display. This was not how wars were fought. You did not offer mercy to your enemy. You destroyed them completely. Why? Kelv asked. "Why spare us?" "Because we are not like you," Kwan replied. "We do not kill without reason. We did not start this war. You did. But we will show you that humanity fights with honor. We destroy military targets, not helpless ships. We remember that your crews have families. We remember that even our enemies are people. Now choose. Die pointlessly or live to tell your council what happened here." Kelv looked around his bridge. His crew was exhausted, terrified, waiting for his decision. He thought about his own family back on the Forthian homeworld. He thought about the families of every crew member under his command. He powered down his weapons. Within an hour, the remaining council ships had retreated, limping back toward their home systems. They left behind 187 destroyed vessels and thousands of dead crew members. The human fleet had lost 34 ships total. The Battle of the Epsilon Reach was over, and with it, the Galactic Council's myth of invincibility died. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than the retreating ships could travel. Every species heard the same story. The humans had not just won. They had dominated. They had fought with a new kind of warfare that made the Council's massive fleets obsolete. But the most important part of the story was what happened at the end. The humans had offered mercy. They had let the survivors go. This was not the action of monsters or terrorists. This was the action of a military force that followed rules, that valued life, that fought only as much as necessary. Public opinion across council worlds began to shift. Citizens started asking questions. Why did we kill those colonists? Why did we provoke this war? What did we expect would happen? The Polythian government was the first to crack. Their representative to the Galactic Council stood before the Assembly and said, "We can no longer support this conflict. The humans have shown restraint that we did not. They offered mercy that we did not. We are withdrawing from the Council effective immediately." The Centauri Collective followed within days. 2 of the 7 founding species gone. The council that had governed the galaxy for millennia was fracturing. Admiral Thex, watching these events from his command station, felt reality shifting beneath him. He had started this war with a single order to fire on the Eternal Dawn. He had killed 39,000 humans because he thought they were weak, insignificant, unimportant. Now those weak humans had shattered the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. They had broken the council itself. The Krell Armada arrived at the human colony of New Providence with 300 warships. They had learned from the Epsilon Reach disaster. They did not stay in formation. They spread out, making it harder for human ships to jump between them. They moved constantly, never staying in one position long enough to be targeted. But they were not there to fight other ships. They were there to destroy a colony. New Providence was home to 40,000 humans, farmers, teachers, engineers, children, people who had nothing to do with the war, people who just wanted to live peaceful lives on a new world. The Krell did not send a warning. They did not offer a chance to surrender. They simply opened fire on the planet's surface. Cities burned. Farms were reduced to ash. Schools and hospitals exploded under plasma bombardment. In the first hour, 12,000 humans died. Men, women, children, all of them guilty of nothing except being human. A distress signal reached Earth within minutes. Chancellor Minji watched the footage of cities burning, of parents carrying dead children from the rubble. She felt something break inside her, something that could never be repaired. "Get me Admiral Quan," she said quietly. "Tell him the rules have changed." Quan received the message while his fleet was preparing for a different operation. He watched the same footage from New Providence. He saw children who looked like Hai, families who had looked like the colonists on the Eternal Dawn. The Council had learned nothing. "They were doing it again," Gaon Quan said. "Deploy the Cascade Protocol. Target the Krell fleet at New Providence. All of them." Engineer Gaon hesitated for just a moment. The Cascade Protocol was his creation, but he had hoped they would never need to use it. It was too devastating, too terrible. But the footage from New Providence played on screens throughout the ship. There was no choice anymore. "Yes, sir," Gion said, activating the Cascade Protocol. The Krell Armada orbiting New Providence was preparing for a second bombardment when space itself turned against them. Reality twisted and bent. Jump space, the dimension that ships use to travel faster than light, suddenly forced itself into normal space. The Krell ships did not explode. They did not break apart. They simply vanished. 300 warships gone in an instant, pulled into jump space and trapped there. The crews inside were still alive, still conscious. But they were no longer in normal space. They were nowhere. In a place where physics worked differently, where time moved strangely, where there was no way out. Some would eventually emerge, days later, years later, decades later, but for now they were simply gone. Erased from the battlefield without a shot being fired. The Krell Empire received word of the fleet's disappearance within hours. They sent scouts to investigate. The scouts found nothing, just empty space and a damaged human colony below. The Krell High Command understood immediately what had happened. The humans had a weapon that could simply remove ships from existence. Terror spread through the Krell military. What was the point of fighting if the enemy could make you vanish? The Krell Empire sent an emergency message to the Galactic Council. They were withdrawing from the war. They would not fight an enemy who could do this, but the other Council species were not deterred. They believed the humans must have limitations. That weapon must be expensive or difficult to use. They decided to press harder, to attack more colonies, to force humanity to use up their resources. The Nexari launched the next attack, targeting the colony on Kepler Station. They used cloaked dreadnoughts, ships that were invisible to most sensors. They thought they could strike without warning, just like they had planned to do to Earth months earlier, but they had forgotten about Hio. She was 16 years old now, a student at Earth's Orbital Academy. She had been studying astrophysics since she was 12, and she had a gift for seeing patterns that others missed. When the Nexari fleet approached Kepler Station under cloak, Hio noticed something wrong with the background stellar radiation. Tiny gravitational distortions that should not be there. There are ships, she told her professors. Right here. 7 of them. Maybe more. Her professors checked her calculations and felt their blood go cold. She was right. The Nexari fleet was less than 2 hours from Kepler Station. There was barely time to prepare defenses. The warning reached Admiral Kwan's forces. They did not have time to evacuate the station. They did not have time to bring in reinforcements. But they had enough time for one thing. Commander Tay took her strike force directly to Kepler Station. When the Nexari ships dropped their cloaks to begin the attack, they found human vessels waiting for them. The battle was brutal and short. The humans could not save the station completely. Sections of it were destroyed. 3,000 colonists died. But the Nexari fleet was completely annihilated. Not a single ship escaped. Not a single crew member survived. The humans made sure of that. They hunted down every escape pod, every lifeboat, and destroyed them. It was cold. It was ruthless. It was murder. Commander Tay sent a message to the Galactic Council after the battle. You want to target civilians? Then you will die. All of you. We will not take prisoners from fleets that attack our colonies. We will not show mercy to those who show us none. This is your final warning. The war had changed. Both sides were now fighting without restraint, without the rules that had once governed conflict. The Council attacked human colonies. Humanity destroyed Council fleets and started targeting infrastructure on Council worlds, power stations, water treatment facilities, communications networks. Nothing that killed civilians directly, but everything that made civilization possible. A Vorian world lost power for 3 weeks. Millions suffered in the heat without air conditioning or refrigeration. Food spoiled, hospitals struggled. The Vorian government begged for a ceasefire. The human fleet responded by destroying another power station. You wanted this, Admiral Kwan told them. You chose escalation. You chose to kill our children. Now you get to understand what suffering means. But this approach troubled many humans. Colonel Sung, who commanded the Marine Forces, sent a private message to Admiral Kwan. Sir, we're becoming what we hate. We're using their tactics against them. When does it end? Kwan did not have a good answer. It ends when they surrender. When they acknowledge us as equals. When they admit what they did was wrong. And if they never do? Sung asked. Kwan was silent for a long time. Then I don't know. I honestly don't know. Dr. Gina, the xenopsychologist, had been studying Council species reactions to the war. She published her findings in a report that reached both military commanders and civilian leaders. Her conclusion was simple but profound. The Council species have never faced an existential threat before, she wrote. For thousands of years they have been on top. They cannot psychologically accept that a younger species could challenge them. They would rather destroy everything than admit humans are equals. We are not just fighting a war. We are fighting their entire worldview. Chancellor Minji read the report and understood the terrible truth. This war could not end with simple victory. It had to end with complete transformation of how the galaxy thought about humanity. and that would require something dramatic. She contacted Admiral Kwan with a new strategy. We need to show them both sides of humanity. Our capacity for violence and our capacity for mercy. We need to hurt them badly enough that they fear us, but then show them we can be better than they are. How do we do that? Kwan asked. We lay siege to one of their homeworlds, Minji replied. We show them we could destroy it if we wanted. But then we show them we choose not to. We force them to see us as the more civilized species. It was risky. It was audacious. But it might be the only way to end the war without complete annihilation of one side or the other. Admiral Kwan chose his target carefully. Althrek Prime, homeworld of the Althraki, one of the Council's founding species. A planet with 4 billion inhabitants and massive cultural significance. If humanity could take control of this world without destroying it, the psychological impact would be enormous. The human fleet assembled around Althrek Prime in the largest military operation of the war. Over 1,500 ships. They did not attack immediately. Instead, they established a complete blockade. Nothing in, nothing out. No food shipments, no medicine, no communication with the outside galaxy. The siege began. The Althraki government refused to negotiate. They believed rescue would come, that the other council species would break the blockade. But the other species were too afraid. They had seen what humanity could do. They would not risk their fleets to save the Althraki. Weeks turned into months. Food supplies on Althrek Prime began to run low. Power stations were rationed. Hospitals ran out of essential medicines. The population started to panic. Still, the Althraki government refused to surrender. Their pride would not allow it. They would rather let their people starve than admit defeat to humans. 6 months into the siege, Colonel Sung sent a message to Admiral Kwan. Sir, sensors are picking up mass starvation in several cities. Children are dying. We're killing civilians by inaction. I know, Kwan replied, his voice heavy with exhaustion. But if we break the siege now, we lose everything. They need to surrender. They need to acknowledge us. At what cost? Sung asked. How many innocent people have to die before we prove our point?